Today I want to talk about how I overcame the cravings, how I resisted the cravings, and how I kept myself motivated, especially in the early days. I've spoken about this a lot before, so most people will know that, one of my biggest influences and motivations was my kid. Sean was, it started out as being sort of a lesson in what I was doing wrong, right, in my life, and what I was doing wrong as a parent. Sean's mom had died when he was just turned 13, and he'd a hard life, I mean, it was hard for him to deal with that. He loved his mom, and he was left with just it was just me and him, and I sort of went a bit to pieces after Angie had died, and yeah, it was tough. It was a tough time. A lot of that, going to pieces involved basically drinking alcohol. So I was drinking a lot before then, but I think I started drinking even more when she died. And having Sean was, I think, one of the things that kept me floating. Kept me above ground, kept my head sort of level enough so that I knew I had to look after him. He's still only a young lad, and he was going through his own problems. So it was only when I saw how much of an influence I was having on his alcohol that it really started to motivate me to stop. That was a motivation more than an inspiration. I think I'm not sure if I was inspired in the beginning. I think I was more motivated by the things that I wanted to get away from the pain I wanted to get away from, rather than any pleasure I wanted to gain. I just knew that my life at that time wasn't going where I wanted it to go. I wasn't being the person that I was capable of being. Wasn't being the father that I was capable of being. So the inspiration came later. The inspiration came from doing these videos, came from just the life that I had outside of alcohol, the sort of confidence that I was building in myself, the belief that I was building in myself that I could do this, that I could quit drinking, and that, not drinking, that was a big wall for me. It was a big wall for me to step over, was that, at the beginning, I sort of didn't know what to expect, didn't know where I was going to go, didn't know what was facing me down the road, how my life was going to turn out, how all these different small aspects of my life were going to turn out, because alcohol was so involved in my life. It was such a big part of my life. And that, as I say, that framework that I'd built up around alcohol and all that bullshit around, the different parts of drinking alcohol, and the other parts of that, like eating junk food and whatever, my friends, the environment that you sort of the environment that you necessarily have to be a drinker. I haven't been in an off license for so long. I mean, fair enough, I've been into a supermarket where they sell beer, but when I came over here first, the idea of bodega was like, oh, heaven. Now it's like bodega is a drug den, or it just doesn't have any meaning to me at all now. Wine always had a sort of a significance. It was a weird significance in my life. It was, I can't really explain it. It's like beer was the normal drink that I drank. Wine was when I felt like I was being not a connoisseur, but like being more sophisticated. Beer was what I drank with the lads. Wine was what I drank with my partner. That kind of thing. It's two different it's a weird sort of thing to get out into words, this, but you know, you probably understand what I mean. That there's different drinks that you drink at certain times, and they all have different meanings, and often these meanings are very specific, but they're unique to you. But it was after I'd stopped drinking, really, that I started to, become my own inspiration, because I thought, well, I started changing myself in just different ways. Ways that you can't do when you're drinking alcohol. You just can't change in that way when you're a drinker. When you continue to do a certain, I've talked about this in different videos about the cornerstone habits, and you can build a cornerstone habit that will build you up, or you can build a cornerstone habit that will drag you down. And alcohol, when you start drinking alcohol, as I say, your friends tend to be drinkers, your environment tends to be a drinking environment, your decisions tend to be not totally evolved. I mean, unless you're drinking all the time, then a lot of your decisions are going to be based around other things, but they're going to be influenced by alcohol, by drinking, and by that lifestyle, and you gradually build up this framework over years and years and years, and it's that framework that becomes the hardest thing to take down, but it's the thing that you have to take down, at the end of the day. So it's when you start to do something like this, you quit drinking alcohol and you develop, you take out that root, that foundation, right? That foundational stone. And then without you really needing to try a lot, you find that other parts of that life start to crumble as well, right? Because they're not being upheld by the one thing, the one habit, right? So that gives you confidence, right? When you start to think to yourself, well, yeah, I'm feeling good now, maybe if I feel like going out and walking, I need to sort of take my mind off the drinking, so yeah, I'll go out walking. And then you discover that you like walking, or you start to say, you do other things in your life because you're trying to distract your mind, and you realize that, one or two of these things that you might really like to do. So that gives you inspiration to carry on and to try different things. Another thing that will give you inspiration is your health. As you see the effects of your health, you see your health is getting better, you're feeling better. This will inspire you. I mean, look, at the end of the day, those first few days and weeks are the toughest. These are the times when you have to push yourself through, right? But you have to do anything you can to get yourself through those days, right? Push yourself in any way you can. Change your environment. Get rid of certain people out of your life, even if that's not long term. In the short term, definitely, don't meet up with these people. Change your thinking is the biggest part. At the end of the day, don't put the alcohol into your mouth and just keep pushing through, regardless of what it takes. And if you're not inspired in the beginning, you will be by your own efforts, right? You will inspire yourself, and that's one of the baseline things of this that I hear not only from myself, and this is I can attest to this from my own personal experience, but anybody else I've talked to who have successfully got past the few months, or when they get to that year mark and they say, yeah, Jesus, I never realized how much I could actually do. I never realized that I could get to this stage with myself. When I look back on the last year, they say, and I will also say, right, when I look back on the last 3.5 years of my life, I cannot believe how much I have done and how much I've achieved, just because I haven't had that big elastic band pulling me back all the time, not only pulling me back to where I was, but pulling me back 2 steps, 3 steps back into that, So it's the same with people who've got past a year. They say, I can't believe how much I've done. I can't believe where I am now, the way I'm thinking, So that's going to be your biggest inspiration, is yourself.